Hi there, this is Lindsay Drangeid, and this is a summary of what I picked up from my district initiative analysis project. So we're going to be talking just very briefly about what I researched, how I went about gathering and evaluating the data, what recommendations I would offer my district, the three big takeaways from this analysis, and questions I'd ask about new initiatives and how would I research a new initiative. First of all, I researched an initiative that is actually coming this fall. I knew very little about it. It was introduced to the staff in the spring that this was coming, but that was it. So what I'm looking at is BAR, Building Assets, Reducing Risks. And it's this program that is intended to address failure rates, improve GPA, improve student behavior, improve relationships both between students and teachers and between students and students and between teachers and teachers. There are 8 core components to this, as are listed on this slide. So how I went about gathering my data was fairly straightforward. I used Google Scholar searches as well as just regular Google searches. Some of these directed me towards ERIC, and so I was able to source a few things from there. There were a variety of sources that looked promising, but they had a fee, and so I abandoned those for maybe obvious reasons. So in evaluating these sources, I pulled out all my skills from this course and the previous, and it felt pretty natural. I thought made me think back to when it all felt a little awkward, especially at first. But I looked at the credibility of the source and the credibility of the authors, not terribly hard to look up. Looked at the source type, quantitative versus qualitative. Was it a study? Was it a report? What was it? And then just looked at the overall design of the report, whatever the source was, primarily looking for quantitative studies. Of my 11 sources that I ended up using, 4 were really primary quantitative studies. So what would I recommend for my district? For administration, both district and building-wide, there really needs to be proper training and supports that are in place. The BAR program specifies these things as components. In fact, there are BAR coordinators in the buildings, which is again specified by this program. Interestingly, this is a program that was developed by a guidance counselor at St. Louis Park High School, which is about 2 miles that way from me right now, in 1999. So that's just a kind of a side interesting sort of thing. But the BAR program has some very specific components to it that really a district needs to follow. Administration also needs to work very hard to get buy-in from its teachers. Without that, nothing will really happen. As well as kids' families. Teachers, they need to work hard to get buy-in from students. And then, as I kind of mentioned before, the bar program has these very specific components to it, and these need to be followed. It's not a time to get creative, especially in the initial few years of implementing the program. So my big 3 takeaways. The quantitative studies showed that bar has positive results. I need to set aside my skepticism of new initiatives in general, which unfortunately what can happen when you've been teaching for 20 years. And so I really need to commit to this initiative, and I need to just do things by the book. Again, not a time to get creative. So when it comes to new initiatives, questions I need to ask is, what issues does this initiative address? And I would like to see data that supports it. I'd want to know what kind of training and supports are going to be in place and what this is really intended to do. I would research the proposals using what we've been doing in the last 2 classes. I'd look at both scholarly and non-scholarly sources, and I would focus in on quantitative studies. Not that qualitative are bad, not that reports are bad, but I would focus in on quantitative studies that seem to be well designed and well written. Thank you for your time.